If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema, you can get yourself a 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some custom tactics and player instructions for the Fut 222. This should really help you get some wins in Fut Champs, Rivals, whatever you play. And yeah, just before we get into today's video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, as that does really help with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics, for the defensive style we like to use balance. The reason for this is you get the greatest control when you are defending, so you are able to press when you need to press and you're able to be more conservative when you need to be. So it does give you greater control when you are defending. Some people like using pressure tactics, but I do suggest getting used to balance if you can. But that being said, if you do want to use pressure tactics, that's absolutely fine, go right ahead. Now for the defensive width, we actually have this on 42. The reason for this is people like to play narrow in FIFA 23 primarily. Obviously you get the people that go down the wing and do cutbacks, but primarily FIFA 23 is quite a narrow game, so you need to focus your defense on being quite narrow and compact primarily. The reason we have this on 42 is because we're still able to get some coverage of the wing, so if somebody does try and do one of those plays where they run down the sideline and cut back, we've also got players there to help with that. So we defend primarily narrow, but we are also able to cover the wings when we need to. Now moving on to the depth, we actually have this on 60. Now the reason we have this on 60 is because I sometimes like to be aggressive. I don't want to get pinned back in my own half too much, because a lot of people force those isolation plays where they start like, you know, R1 tap dribble, and they just start wriggling around and all that. It gets really annoying, so I like to have my depth a little bit higher so I can prevent that from happening. I like to win the ball higher up the pitch, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit my entire defensive line too far forward, otherwise one through ball will destroy us. So it's a nice balance, but we can still win the ball high up the pitch. Now, moving on to build-up play, guys, we have this on balance. The reason being is the 4-2-2 is quite a flat formation when you are attacking, because you almost have like a 4-2-4 in attack a lot of the time. So I like to have the build-up play on balance, because fast build-up works better for those formations that have like those little diamonds that you can play. You know, a 4-2-3-1 where there's like 5 midfielders that you can just pass between very quickly. With the 4-2-2, it's more of like a one direct pass formation. So I like to use this on balance so the team does keep a better shape. Now, moving on to chance creation, guys, as always I suggest direct passing. The reason for this is if you don't use direct passing, you'll find it very difficult to create chances. If you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the white dots, which are your attacking players. On direct passing, they actively move around to penetrate the defensive line and allow you to create chances. If you look at something like balance, this doesn't happen. They're very static and it's very difficult to break through the defense, so I do very much suggest using direct passing. Now moving on to the attacking width, guys, I actually have this on about 45 nowadays. The reason for this is I actually think the 4-2-2 is slightly wider than the 4-2-3-1, and because I like to use both formations, the 4-2-3-1 and the 4-2-2, I like to use the 4-2-3-1 as more of a narrow formation, and now I'm starting to use the 4-2-2 as a still narrow formation but a slightly wider formation than the 4-2-3-1, so it just gives me something a bit different. And I have really been enjoying having the width on 45, because those wide cams do get out to the wings a little bit more, but your team is still nice and compact, so you can play the ball to your team very easily. So I do like having this on 45. Now for players in box, I have this on 5. The reason for this is I like to get some players into the box to create chances, of course, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit my entire team, so I have this on 5 as it's very balanced and it's like bang in the middle. But if you want to up this or lower, it's completely up to you. For corners and free kicks, I also have these both on 2. The reason for this is obviously I want to get some players into the box for set pieces so we can have some chances and stuff, but at the same time, again, I don't want to overcommit my entire team. I don't want to get counter attacks, so I just keep this on 2. You guys can opt this or lower it, it's completely up to you. Now for the players you want to use, guys, in the striker positions, because it is a two-striker formation, you do have a bit more of a variety on what you can do. In a one-striker formation, you have to go for like a well-rounded striker because you have to compensate for the fact that there's one striker instead of two. This obviously isn't the case in the 4-2-2-2. So what you can do is go for a balance between the two strikers if you like. This is what I do. I have Di Maria, who's a bit more technical. He's got the 5-star skills. Then I've got Robbie Keane, who's a bit more of a clinical finisher. But let's say you want to go for two lengthy players or two explosive players. You can do whatever you like because it's a two-striker formation. You have that freedom, which is very nice. Now for the two cams, you're going to want technical players, agile dribblers, players with pace, players that can cross the ball, players that can shoot, basically really good attacking players that will really help create, because if you don't have good players in these positions, you'll find it very difficult to create any chances. You don't want to use those slow, clunky players in these positions. You need those agile players. You need players that can sprint. You need them to be very technical on the ball. So I'm just using Phil Foden and Chiesa in these positions. Now in the two CDM positions, I suggest going for a balance between the two players. So I have one more defensive CDM in Patrick Vieira. Somebody with a medium-high work rate is perfect with the good defensive stats. High is also okay, as is medium, but just focus on getting those very good defensive stats in one of the CDM positions, because this player is just going to stay back and make life difficult for the opponent. Now in the other CDM position, we're going to use this player as more of a box-to-box player. So I suggest going for somebody with very well-rounded stats, somebody with a high work rate, so you have high attacking contribution and high defensive contribution, and somebody that is able to do a bit of everything. So I use Park Ji-sung, as he's got like above 80 in nearly every stat. He's got great stamina and he's got that high work rate. If you need somebody cheap that will still fit this position, Gold Renato Sanchez is still very good in this game. Now moving on to the two fullbacks, you can do what I do, where I go for a bit of a balance. I have one attacking fullback and one defensive fullback. Hernandez is my more attacking one. You can go for two defensive ones if you want to, or you can go for two attacking ones. You basically have a lot of freedom, but it does alter your player instructions a little bit depending on what you choose. For the centre backs and goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as possible. Basically, I'm mainly just using these players because I'm not spending my coins, I haven't opened any packs, and I'm basically just waiting until next week to get some better players, because obviously I'll be opening all my packs for Team of the Year. Moving on to player instructions, guys, on the two strikers, on the more technical player that you have, so I'm using Di Maria with the 5-star skills, I suggest stay central and mixed attack and leave everything else alone. The reason for this is we don't just want this player to make those runs in behind. They're more of a creative player. They're the more creative out of the two strikers, so we can also use them to play in the other striker. So I could use Di Maria on mixed attack to also assist Robbie Keane, so we get even more chances. If we have them on both getting behind, they're both going to be doing the same thing, and it's very predictable a lot of the time. So on the more technical player, I have stay central and mixed attack. And then on the other striker, the more of a finisher player, the one that you do want to get in behind and really get those chances, I suggest stay central and get in behind, because like I said, Robbie Keane's now going to run off by default in behind, and then Di Maria might sit a little bit deeper so he can then play the pass to Robbie Keane, who is running in behind. Stay central is important on both the strikers because you don't need them drifting off to the wings. You need them to stay in those central areas to really get involved. Otherwise, they're basically just doing what the cams should be doing. Speaking of the cams, on the cams you're going to want get into the box for cross, and that is it. The reason for this is you don't want to restrict their defensive ability. If you have them on stay forward, it makes your attack very disconnected from your defense, so when you win the ball back, you've basically got 4 attackers on the halfway line and then the rest of your team in your box, so it's very difficult to get out. So I do suggest basic defensive support so you do get more of a natural transition up the pitch, and get into the box for cross is important on both of the cams because you need them to transition into the penalty box. It doesn't mean you have to cross the ball to them, it's just if you have them on balance crossing runs, they don't get involved, they don't really do much, so you need them on get into the box for cross so they make those runs into the box and they really help you create more chances. I think it's very important, guys, so don't forget that instruction. Now on the more defensive CDM, the one that's going to stay back, we have cut passing lanes because that's very annoying. It breaks up the play, you can intercept those passes easier, and it makes your opponent stressed out, to be honest with you. We also have stay back while attacking because this is a defensive defensive player. We want them to stay back. We don't need them to contribute in the attack. And we have them on cover center because we need them to cover those central areas. We don't need him to cover the wings because we've already got like Foden and Hernandez on this side. So we need him to cover the central areas as there's no one else there. But moving on to the right CDM, the more box-to-box player, we leave them on default settings and then we have them on cover center. The reason we leave them on default is because, like I said, it's a box-to-box player. You want them to attack, you want them to defend, so you don't want to restrict them too much. The only important thing is that we have them on cover center because, again, we don't need them to cover the wings. We've already got two players on the right-hand side to do that, so we need them to cover the central areas to stop people going through the middle. Now, moving on to the fullbacks, like I said, I have one more attacking fullback and one more defensive fullback. So on my more attacking fullback, I have balanced attack and overlap. This is so we can get some extra width and extra options in the attack. It's very, very useful because sometimes you can get quite restricted against those players that are parking the bus. So by having one fullback on balanced attack overlap, it really helps stretch your opponent out and it helps you to create more chances. On my more defensive fullback, I have stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason for this is we want him to stay back while default because he's a more defensive player and we need extra defensive support. And we have him on overlap because let's say I was to trigger a run forward with him, we'd want him to overlap to really stretch out the opponent. We don't really want him coming inside. That sounds really weird, I'm sorry. But yeah, we need him in those wider areas when he does go forward. Now, if you do have like two defensive players, you could put them both on stay back while attacking. Similarly, if you have two attacking fullbacks, you could put them both on balanced attack. But like I said, I have one attacking fullback which I leave on balance and then one more defensive that I leave on stay back. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll catch you all later. Peace.